In this one, we'll be taking a look at form components. And first of all, we'll take a look at the interactive properties that form components provide. And then we will take a look at controlled components and uncontrolled components. So form components, such as the input, text area, and option, differ from other native components because they can be mutated via user interactions. So these components provide interfaces that make it easier to manage forms in response to user interactions. So if you remember, we had this review form wherein we were making use of text boxes and drop downs in order to submit our review. So form components basically supports a few properties that are affected via user interactions, and they are value, which is supported by input and text area components. Then we have checked, which is supported by input components of type checkbox or radio, and then we have selected, which is supported by option component. So here we created a form, and as you can see, we were making use of value properties for input type text, and then we were having the selected option, as you can see over here, on change course. So we were setting the set state for this one, selected. So whatever options were selected that were accessed via this element.target.value, and then it was being set to our state. Now in HTML, if you remember, the value of text area is set via children, whereas in React you should use value instead. So if I make use of text area over here and run this in browser, you can see it's saying enter your feedback over here. So let's try this one out now. Click on submit now, and over here you can see feedback course is nice. That is what the feedback we provided over here. And if you see how we did that is by making use of the value property of text area. Now form components allow listening for changes by setting a callback to the onChange property. So this is what we are doing over here. We are setting callbacks with onChange. So this is the onChange event, and then we are calling these callbacks onChange name, onChange feedback, onChange course. The onChange property work across browsers to fire in response to user interactions when the value of input or text area changes, as you just now saw, and the checked state of input changes or the selected state of option changes. So in this case, when we were changing the course, that is also going to change. So if I now give the value over here and give it a feedback, and let's say submit, so you can see that here master JavaScript and jQuery is coming up. So that way these interactive properties work, and like all DOM events, the onChange property is supported on all native components and can be used to listen to bubble change events as well. Now coming on to next topic, we have controlled components. Now controlled components are those whose value is already set in the render function. So in this example that we were having in our review form, obviously we were not setting any value, we were setting the value to the state that was there, and if the state by default initially was set to null, so if I provide a value over here in the initial state itself, then these values will be treated as controlled components. Now the next in line is uncontrolled components. An input that does not supply a value or sets it to null is an uncontrolled component. So just to demonstrate it over here, what we can do is we can have this and then remove everything from here. So this is an uncontrolled component. Now this will render an input that starts off with an empty value. Any user input will be immediately reflected by the rendered element. If you wanted to listen to updates to the value, you could use the onChange event just like you can with controlled components. If you want to initialize the component with a non-empty value, you can supply a default value property. So here, if you want to give it a default value, just use this default value and give it a name over here. Similarly, for select, we have default checked option. So here, if I run this in browser, it will exactly behave like we were having the controlled ones. So now it is having a default value set to skill bakery. So that was all about form components in React.js.